Welcome to the Perfect Movie Podcast, the podcast where we answer the question, is this a perfect movie? I'm Michael.
Kalen.
And today, we are doing our top 10 movies of the year list.
Yay.
Dun, 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 dun.
Because as you know, it is 2023. We have entered a new year.
I'm sure we're all hopeful for the year ahead.
Mm-hmm. Have you seen Mexico right now?
Even though 2022 was another shite year, it was a good year for movies.
Surprisingly, it was.
And I actually think, who we can thank for that? COVID-19. Thanks, COVID-19, for saving all these releases and pushing them back.
We were supposed to get all these movies in 2020, but shit happens, right?
Yeah, like a lot of these word blockbusters that got pushed back.
Yep.
A lot of stuff got delayed. So there's I feel like we really did get flooded with quality movies. I'm fortunate that I had a long winter break, so I kind of did some homework, grinded down in the movie mines, and I've got freaking 8 movies on my honorable mention list that I think in other years might even made the top 10 list.
Yeah.
I can almost make another top 10 list of great stuff. So, I don't know. How'd you feel about this year?
This is probably one of the best years for movies we've had since, pre-pandemic. Everything's been really slow. The world has been kind of slowly getting back to normal. And so, it just felt like there's blockbuster after blockbuster this year. Even though most of this stuff went straight to streaming, there were a lot of quality movies that released in theaters this year. So, and I don't go to the theater anymore. But still, if you're into the theater stuff, then good year.
I did see a few things in theaters this year. None of the really big. Oh, we saw the Batman together.
We did see that in theater, and we saw Nope in theater as well.
Yes, so we did see a couple of the big blockbusters in theaters. I haven't seen Avatar 2, like the biggest blockbuster of all time.
I haven't seen that yet.
That could have maybe made this list, but to be honest, I'm super not interested.
Yeah, we talked about it, and we're like, do we really want to sit through a 3-hour movie of a franchise that we don't really care about in the first place? Because we weren't real partial on the first one.
No, I thought it was fine.
The visuals were cool for the time, and I think it's basically the same thing now, where it's like the story isn't that great, but wow, it looks good kind of thing. But
keeping Sam Worthington's career afloat 10 years later. He was kind of big when Avatar 1 happened, but we're 10 years later and nobody's heard from Sam Worthington because he was in the Terminator reboot with Christian Bale.
Yep.
He was in the
I was going to say
Gods of
Clash
Egypt.
of the Titans.
Yes.
The sequel one that came out, it was 2014, 2015, whatever.
With Liam Neeson.
Because when did the first Avatar come out? 2008? Something like that?
Something like that.
Yeah, that's a pretty old movie, but it still holds up.
I was a teenager.
Visual.
I remember I saw it with my friend Jack Applequist.
Jack Applequist. I do remember going with a group of friends to see that at the MOA or something.
It was the biggest movie ever. Avatar 2 is once again the biggest movie ever. I just really don't care.
I don't care, and I don't really. The director, what's his face?
James Cameron.
James Cameron is such a pretentious douchebag that I don't really care for anything he has to say or do.
He seems to be really convinced that his Blue People movies have something really are a real comment on society.
Right.
When last one was just Dances with Wolves, and this one seems
it's about the ocean.
Yeah, this one's Save the Oceans. Okay, we get it.
He's the definition of delusions of grandeur.
The only thing I'll give James Cameron is I love that when he made Titanic, he in the budgeted the studio paid for him to go to the bottom of the ocean and research the actual Titanic and do real science. And he does love the ocean.
Yeah.
So it makes sense that he made a sequel about the ocean. I just wish James Cameron, Golden Boy of Hollywood, would do something more interesting,
right,
or a little more risky to me.
Right.
It's just not, I don't know. They seem like empty action movies, but I can't judge it fully because I haven't seen it.
He needs to cut down the runtime of his movies, man.
Just don't make 3-hour movies. I don't want them.
He made Terminator, though, so it's okay.
T2.
T2, yes.
T2, Aliens. He's got a great track run.
Yeah.
All right. So should we get into our honorable mentions lists?
Yeah, let's do it.
I guess I'll go through mine, and then if you want to hit any ones that maybe on yours or vice versa. Let me know if any of these are on your list.
Okay.
So honorable mention number 1, The Black Phone.
I do not have that on my list.
You don't have to be scared, because nothing bad is going to happen here. On that I give my word, Johnny. You like soda? I'll tell you what. I'm gonna go get you a soda.
I have not seen that.
Oh, you haven't seen The Black Phone?
No, you've recommended it to me, but I have not seen that yet.
I'd say it's pretty good. It's really elevated by Ethan Hawke's performance as the villain, but it's like so simple. It's hard to be mad at, but it's also hard to like elevate it onto
Right.
the list. It just hits its marks of what it's trying to do and does it very competently.
Right.
It's not gonna like, it's not a home run, but it's like a solid double.
Can I be honest with something, like, especially this genre, because this is technically horror, correct? So I'm not real big into the serial killer horror stuff of people getting kidnapped and trapped in dungeons, basements, etc. I'm not real into that. I don't really like that genre just because it's shit that happens in real life, and I don't subscribe to that. I don't find that entertaining. I find it horrible. Like, I don't find that particularly interesting, that concept, especially when it involves children. That's just me personally.
Yeah, it's a little more than that. Like, it's not like a fun horror movie, so it's not like you're laughing along with Ethan Hawke's character. He's
Sure.
like really grimy and gross, and his just mannerisms are so bizarre, and he's always wearing that mask that you see in the posters. But The Black Phone also has like the supernatural element where it's like he's talking to the previous kidnappees that
Right.
died, and they're like guiding him. So it has like a more of an emotional core than you maybe expect from.
Okay.
When you get to the finale, you're into it, and it feels vindicated. And I do. It doesn't feel exploitative. It feels like it justifies itself.
Okay. So, and I know it's not based on anything real. Actually, that premise reminds me of the movie. Have you ever seen the movie The Lovely Bones?
No, that's a Peter Jackson one, right?
I believe so. I forget the main actors in this, but I think Mark Wahlberg is in it. There's a couple other notable people. But the premise is like a girl gets kidnapped by this, or she gets coerced into this dungeon-like place in a cornfield by a creep with Jeffrey Dahmer glasses, and he does his thing, and then her spirit comes back into the world to kind of try to get justice for her untimely death.
It's like that, except the main character is a new kid that's kidnapped in the dungeon, and all the previous kids are the spirits.
That's interesting. It's an interesting premise. It's just not for me. So
All right. Next one, Prey. Is that on any of your lists?
no, but I can put that in honorable mention.
You were sleeping.
I was waiting for it to circle back. Now you're gonna have to cross the river to get it. Don't get your bowstring wet. Tabe, this morning in the sky, I saw a sign. The Thunderbird. I've been practicing. It's time. I'm ready for my katamia.
You really think you're ready? You want to hunt something that's hunting you.
I'd say, once again, similar, except it's an action movie. It doesn't mess anything up for the most part.
Right.
Solid, hits its marks by the third act. You like your main character. It's one of the better, if not the best, Predator sequels. It's a smart idea to bring it back to, early America. That's a cool setting to have action scenes.
Yeah.
Nice vistas. Wow, look at these vistas.
Look at these American-speaking Native Americans.
They speak perfect English.
I'm not gonna lie, I kind of forgot about that movie.
It's good.
Yeah, it's not bad.
And it's streaming. You got Hulu?
Yeah,
Check
straight
it
to
out.
streaming. Yeah, I'll put. This is not technically a 2022 movie, but it came out right before the new year. I will say, Don't Look Up.
It's somewhere between 6 and 9 kilometers across, so
It's big.
it would damage the entire planet, not just a house. you know.
The entire planet. Okay, well, as it's damaging, will it hit this one house in particular that's right on the coast of New Jersey? It's my ex-wife's house. I need it to be hit. Can we make that happen?
You and Shelley have a great relationship. No, you stop.
Listen, in all
You
fairness,
need to stop.
I will, but in all fairness, I actually
Poke you to
paid
death with
for
this
the
gun.
house.
I'm so sorry.
I'm sorry, are we not being clear? We're trying to tell you that the entire planet is about to be destroyed.
Okay.
Okay. Well, it's just something we do around here. We just keep the bad news light.
Right, it helps the medicine go down. And speaking of medicine, tomorrow we've got a
Well,
two-part...
maybe the destruction of the entire planet isn't supposed to be fun.
As one of my honorable mentions,
It didn't make your top 10?
No, it did not.
Okay.
Because we had this conversation the other day, and you didn't like the movie as much as I did. So Don't Look Up, starring Leonardo DiCaprio, Jennifer Lawrence, handful of other people. It is a
Dame Judi Dench, isn't it? No, it's Meryl Streep.
Meryl Streep
as the president.
As the president, and then Timothy Chalamet, Jonah Hill as the president's son. There's a lot of... Oh, and then also Kid Cudi and Ariana Grande make an appearance as a celebrity couple in this world. It is a different take on the disaster genre. Asteroid's going to hit Earth. Leonardo and Jennifer Lawrence's character are trying to warn the world that a comet is going to hit, and nobody is listening. And then it spawns this whole plot about social media and all different types of shit.
With Mark Rylance as the tech billionaire. He was my favorite character.
He was a funny guy.
He's a really great actor.
He was like Steve Jobs, but if Steve Jobs was like like a very introverted creep
It
kind of
was
dude.
Steve Jobs meets Elon Musk. He
Okay, I
looked
can see
like
that.
Steve Jobs, but he acted more like Elon
With
Musk.
a hint of Asperger's or something.
Yeah. Well, Elon Musk, I believe, I don't know if it's like factually...
I believe he does have Asperger's.
Yeah, I believe he does have Asperger's. Yeah, Don't Look Up did not work for me, but it's interesting because when you said it's a different take on the disaster movie, I can see how if you came in sitting down expecting a disaster movie and then this spins off that, how that's more interesting.
Yeah.
But from everything I'd heard of it beforehand, I'm like, this is a satire about global warming or climate change. And for me, it just felt like there's two ways to do satire. There is the metaphor, like the asteroid hitting Earth.
Right.
And then there's the like The Boys does, where it's very like in the moment and it's like very direct. Like it's just shining a mirror basically.
Right.
And this tries to do kind of both, but I didn't feel like either take was like as sharp as it needed to be to keep it from being like just kind of annoying and obnoxious and like, okay, I get it.
Sure.
You know?
But it's funny because I thought that the comedy landed for the most part.
Okay, that's where we disagree. I think that's where we differ. I didn't find it very funny. There is a few funny moments, but for the most part, I didn't find it to be a very funny movie. Like, the worst joke I point to is when Leo and Timothy Chalamet and J-Law are getting stuff for dinner, and Leo's like, oh, I need some of those potatoes. What are those called? And they're like fingerling. And
He's
then,
like, I fucking love fingerling potatoes. Yeah. Okay. I don't know. Maybe because I went into the movie completely blind. I didn't watch any of the trailers, and I thought this was going to be Green Day or what's the other one?
Armageddon?
Armageddon. I thought it was going to be like that, but then it was completely satirical, and I was like, this is kind of a fresh take on the genre. It's clever, kind of, and it's, I don't know. It was entertaining.
I can see how you sat down from that perspective and enjoyed it more than I did.
Okay.
But I honestly found it a chore. I would have turned it off if you didn't recommend it to me and I knew we would talk about it.
Okay, fair enough.
I would have just been like, this is
okay,
enough.
So Don't Look Up, December of 2021, not technically a 2022 movie, but I will still put it on my honorable mentions list.
It's on Netflix if you want to see Leo DiCaprio act
like a Midwestern, middle-aged man, yeah.
Check it out. You want to do another one?
Yeah, let me I will also throw in Hellraiser.
What is it you pray for?
All Asia.
What do you feel like? A joyful note. Without change. Without end. Heaven. There's no music in that.
Hellraiser is another straight to Hulu flick. It is a technically a soft reboot of the Hellraiser franchise. Okay, so Hellraiser 2022, it is directed by David Bruckner. It is based off the Clive Barker original series. It stars Jamie Clayton as the new female Pinhead, and I thought she was great. It is pretty tame for the most part as far as the gore goes, as comparative to the original films. It's not real hard to watch, and that's why I kind of enjoyed it, because I'm not real big on gore shit. But I thought it was really entertaining. I thought there was moments that were scary and interesting.
I think it's a good movie, and that's why I had to turn it off, because our main character is not very likable. It's intentional. She's she's in the 12-step program. She's trying to be a recovering addict. She's relapsing. She's a little messy. She's just kind of all over the place. And I didn't even finish the movie. Is it implied that the box influences her, or is that just her as a person?
No, it's her as a person. So it almost seems like the box attracts those types of people, because if you watch the original films, it's kind of similar situations between the protagonists, where it's like they have these fucked up backstories. They've been abused, or they have weird fetishes, or something strange about this protagonist, where we really wouldn't see them as a hero. It's more like an anti-hero kind of thing. So it seems like the box kind of attracts these types of people.
Yeah, I agree. It's good. I realized, I think, that I just can't. I'm squeamish about hand gore, and the box is constantly stabbing people in their hands.
That's really specific.
And for some reason, to me, it just that gets to me, and I don't know what it is, and I don't like it, so I just turned it off. I made it most of the way through. I just didn't see the final act.
The final act was the best part of the film.
Maybe I might check it in a later day when I'm not feeling so anxious about it. But it's funny that I say that, because one of the movies on my top 10 is all about a man who's going to cut his fingers off if his best friend won't talk to him, won't stop talking to him.
You got to pick and choose, you know what I mean? But the final act was really interesting. It kind of goes in the route of cosmic horror, and that's why I loved it. It's just real strange, and the premise is interesting. The monsters are cool looking, and most of it is practical effects.
I do like all the scenes after we get through the hand gore and we're actually seeing the Cenobites show up to find their person. Right. All that is very effective.
Yeah, they're real malevolent, and they seem powerful, and that's what I love about that genre of horror. It's just that element of what the fuck is going on. It's not a ghost or a demon or a scary guy with a knife. It's this shit is otherworldly.
It's same as a Event Horizon or Annihilation, where it's just deadly force with no mind. It just consumes or kills or whatever it needs.
I'm not real into the BDSM shit that they got going on in these movies, but I mean, if you like that kind of body horror, I would recommend Hellraiser, and it's in an honorable mention. So
all right, I got another horror movie on my honorable mentions. We have an episode about it. Men, directed by Alex Garland. Men. Great movie. You can check out our episode about it. I don't have too much more to say about it. It is very strange, and it is not a mass appeal movie. If you're into weird sci-fi or okay with big metaphorical stories, watch it. If that sounds too strange for you, give it a skip.
If you make it to the ending, make it past the ending, then you've done it, guys.
The last 15 minutes are some of the most bizarre things I've ever seen. I will talk about other movies. There are certain movies that have images that sear into your brain that you'll never forget. Yes. That's an image that sears into my brain that I'll never forget, but it wasn't enough to... I was so mixed on it, it didn't shoot it up to the top 10.
No. It's a good film nonetheless.
Okay, I have another movie. I think this might be on your shit list. Doctor Strange and the Multiverse of Madness.
It is.
You know?
Yeah, Mordo. He's actually the first guy who let me in a Comertage.
Oh, great.
And then he snapped and dedicated his life to trying to kill me.
Oh, great.
I always suspected this day would come.
You did?
Yes. Because you always suspected this day would come. My brother. All right.
So we disagree once again. Mostly what I was like, I liked WandaVision, which ties very much into Doctor Strange and the Multiverse of Madness. I think the core story of the Red Witch, Scarlet Witch. What's the actress's name? She's one of the Olsens. Elizabeth Olsen. Her like dealing with her grief. I thought that was an interesting direction to take in WandaVision, and continuing the story here I think is smart. And I also just like that Sam Raimi got a Marvel budget and was like, I'm just going to do a bunch of Sam Raimi references.
Yeah.
And that's the movie.
Which I will say that is the best part of the movie. It's so campy and cheesy. It does like kind of remind me of the 2002 Spider-Man, with how like strange everything gets in those real close-up shots on people's faces and stuff. It's super recognizable. And I will say that's the best part of that.
And I love that all the neckbeards got mad when the Fantastic Four in the alternate universe all got murdered immediately. And they're like, what do you mean? Reed Richards is supposed to be the smartest scientist in the world.
It was actually the Illuminati.
You know what I mean, though. It wasn't the nerds got mad because all these characters got offed. And it's like, it's not the point of the story.
Right. And that was the point. It was like multiverses. So it's like, obviously, there's other versions of these characters out there somewhere, and they can bring them back whenever they want to. It's not something to get real worked up about.
I guess they say it's plot convenience, but I think it's like, A, she's very powerful, and B, the point of the story is she needs to stop herself and come to realization, and not that the good guys punched hard enough to fix her.
Right. And I give them props for even doing that in the first place. That's something hasn't really been done before, where you just kill off really important characters like that.
And it was teased in the trailers like, oh, look, the X-Men are here now.
Right. And they had Charles Xavier,
Reed Richards.
They had
all these people that the biggest Marvel stans have been waiting to show up.
Right. And they had some random black chick who was supposed to be Mrs. Marvel or something, or Captain Marvel.
Captain Marvel, but she wasn't a black chick. She was the British version from the...
No, that was the Captain America alternate.
Oh, Captain Marvel? Okay, yes. I do know who you're talking about.
But I thought it was clever, like interesting that they just killed these guys off in ridiculous ways, like for a PG-13 Marvel movie. Like the one guy's face like sinks in. Yeah, it was fun. I mean, that scene was fun.
The rest of the movie.
I thought they should have did more like multiverse or like universe jumping kind of thing.
I will say they did kind of squander the concept of multiverses. There's more interesting places that could have been taken.
Like America Chavez, she was the most uninteresting character ever. And then I will say some of the scenes with Scarlet Witch were like borderline horror, and that calls back to Sam Raimi again with Evil Dead and vice versa.
It's a movie about an evil book that warps a person.
Yeah.
It's a movie where a zombie punches his way out of a grave.
These are things I know.
I know what that is.
The scene where America Chavez punches Scarlet Witch, do you remember this? And she turns back to her like, we laughed out loud in the theater for that. Actually, I will say my girlfriend cracked up when she saw Jim Halpert as Mr. Fantastic. She could not stop laughing just because we can't take him seriously.
Yeah, he's like, excuse me, I'm Jack Reacher.
I wasn't really into
fine.
this film.
I mean, it's a Marvel movie. You don't have to have me tell you to see it. If you want to see it, go see it.
Right. It's on Disney Plus now too, I think. So
they all are. Pretty much everything that's been released this year, at least.
Okay.
Black Panther, I think, is about to come. Do you have any more?
No, I think I'm good on my honorable mentions.
Well, I have several. Well,
you were more prepared for this than I was.
That's okay. The Northman.
That's an honorable mention for you?
Did not make my top 10.
Oh, wow. Okay.
I just didn't.
That made my top 10.
Fear not! Let her alone! I offer you your son's heart in exchange for her life! I am Amlet the Beowulf, son of King Arvan the War Raven, and I am his vengeance!
like I said, my one sentence review is The Northman is to medieval chanting what Driving Around LA is to Once Upon a Time in Hollywood.
Yeah.
It was just too much medieval chanting and weird acid trips. And like those were cool, but I didn't connect to the core story.
Okay.
So by the end, it's like I'm just kind of ready to be done.
Right.
It is interesting and well made, and like as a like historical piece and like a well made action epic, it's all there.
Right.
Just didn't connect with me.
You see, I kind of compare this movie to The Green Knight, where I see it as like mythology come to life, and mythological stories are strange and bizarre to begin with, and they don't really make much sense. And so when you bring something like that onto a screen, it can get kind of muddled a bit. And but I thought it was really well done. I do agree with you that I wasn't as invested in the characters as some of Robert Eggers' previous films. Because if you don't know Robert Eggers, he is the director of The Witch, regarded as probably one of the better horror films of the past decade. And then he's also director of The Lighthouse, starring Robert Pattinson and Willem Dafoe, which for me is one of my favorite films of the past decade.
And it's his best movie.
Yes. Yeah, The Northman was great, and I thought the cinematography was beautiful.
I just think ultimately his style and aesthetic doesn't really fit like a big blockbuster.
Sure.
It just
And that's why this movie didn't do well.
It gets a little lost in the weirdness, and it didn't like in The Lighthouse. It's really all about those two core characters, especially Robert Pattinson.
Right.
And by the end, you're like with Robert Pattinson in his mind. And I never felt that way about our protagonist in The Northman.
Yeah.
Because like let me just real quick. What number did you number your list?
No, I didn't number.
Okay, that's fine. But The Northman is on your list.
Yes.
I was writing this down because I was like, this is the movie that people told me was Robert Eggers. Has it accessible? It's like the accessible version of Robert Eggers.
Because it's such a simple plot.
But it starts with like, you got cannibal throat slashing. Our protagonist rips somebody's trachea out with his mouth.
Yeah.
Then his crew lights a bunch of people on fire in a building.
Yeah. I mean, that's pillaging for you.
I mean, it is, but it's like, how am I supposed to root for this guy?
It's true, but I think the point was like he kind of lost his way. You know what I mean?
Everybody's brutal in this time.
Right.
Also.
Right.
Okay. Next up, This Place Rules. It's a documentary. It's a documentary from Andrew Callahan, the Channel 5.
Oh yeah, I have seen. Is this on HBO?
It's on HBO Max. It's about the January 6th Capitol riot.
Wow.
Biden's a child molester, and he kidnaps children and does horrible things to them, just like Hillary Clinton and Obama, who made the virus. The virus is man-made. It doesn't exist. Kids need to be put back in school.
And his boots on the ground experiences previous to that, and just kind of like telling the story of how all this came to a head. Simple as that. Check it out. If you've seen All Gas No Breaks or Channel 5 on YouTube, it's the same guy, but this is less meme centric and more like a historical document and like an emotional thing than like a totally for the laughs, although there's still plenty of that.
He's great. Yeah, check out his channel on YouTube. He's great.
Halloween Ends, is that on your list?
Yes, it is.
It didn't quite make my top 10. It came down to Halloween Ends or Pearl or Pinocchio, and I was like, I cannot in good conscience put Halloween Ends over either of those movies.
I have not seen Pearl yet.
It's actually a lot like Halloween Ends the more I think about it. And then my final honorable mention is Pinocchio, Guillermo del Toro's. Let me say that again. That's a tough one.
Guillermo
del Toro. It's Pinocchio. Is that on your list?
Yes.
All right, we can save it for then, but excellent movie.